The fourth point I wanted to talk about is anti-Semitism, and anti-Semitism has been around for the longest time, and of course it culminated in the Holocaust. But that's the most extreme. I mean, the greatest tragedy of the 20th century. But that's the most extreme form of anti-Semitism. There are many other forms, far more insidious, or far more quotidian, right? Everyday forms of anti-Semitism, right? So two things I wanted to say on this, right? One is when people who are criticizing Israel, you must ensure that you do not veer into the anti-Semitic criticisms, because that is completely unfair. That is completely unfair. That's just how, like, a Muslim wouldn't want somebody to use a broad brush, right, to paint every single Muslim, right, based on the actions of one or a few people. So it's completely unfair for a person to do that. Secondly, just, as a Muslim, most of the prophets that Muslims believe in, most of them are Jews. So it doesn't even make sense to be. I mean, I'm talking about from the Muslim perspective, to be anti-Semitic, right? So it doesn't make a lot of intellectual sense. And finally, I think just practically also, so just on the moral level, I think it's wrong, but also practically it takes away, again, it takes away the moral credibility when you are talking about being pro-Palestine, right? So I think it doesn't make sense. Now, at the same time, what I would say is this: a lot of times people use anti-Semitism as an excuse. When people criticize Israel, that's not criticizing Jews or the Jewish population, right? Because Israel is a political entity. It's not a racial or religious entity per se, right? Of course, there are racial and religious elements, but it is a political entity. So I refuse to accept that, right? When people say, oh, okay, when you criticize Israel, oh, this is anti-Semitism. No, that's like saying, oh, if I criticize the Saudi government, that's being Islamophobic. That's a preposterous claim, right? So Saudi government is fair game. You can criticize it, right? Because that's and there are plenty. There's plenty to talk about when it comes to government. So I think when we hear anti-Semitism, and yes, anti-Semitism, we must reject it, and it's a scourge. At the same time, we must not, as in, it cannot just be used, right? It cannot just be used to, oh, any criticism of Israel is dismissed because of that, right? So there is a question. UN and Human Rights International has condemned Israel for human rights violations. So why hasn't UN and other countries calling for imposed sanctions, like how the world sanctioned Russia? Yeah, because Israel is supported by US, and that, as I said earlier, if US public opinion turns, then you'll see something different here.